looks like we are back. Let's just start hovering through this. I'm gonna make my font a little bit bigger. Workspace settings, font size. Let's make that 20. Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. So, I want to be able to store the record. Right. So the record is basically a partition key, sort key, and the created at and updated by fields that are just standard for any record that's going to exist. And so a chat object is something that extends this record. However, users usually deal with the ID and the sender ID typically, but not so much the actual raw fields that you use for talking to the database. But it's a good idea to have these properties exposed through the API. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, perfect. So we got created at, updated at, created by, updated by records are exposed. What I also think is that we should implement. Is there an abstract? Okay, perfect. We do have an abstract class. So we need to record. We need to create a okay, it's gonna be kind of silly. I want to be able to create the record into this. So why are you complaining? It's missing. Yeah, it's an abstract class, obviously. Okay, let me just look up what's going on with abstract classes. But what I'm really trying to do is just create an interface for toRecord, so that any object that's trying to implement this class record can just go ahead and implement the toRecord method. Is it implements? Is that? And that's going to cause us to. That's too much. It's cleaner this way. Okay. Let's see what's going on with abstract classes a little bit. Okay, so most likely I need to provide. So abstract classes must be defined as such. Okay. Now it's going to complain that this method doesn't exist. Let's go ahead and implement it. So we are going to return everything. Oh, oops. Yeah, let's return everything that's in here, but we also want to return the partition record, partition key. This is what I wanted to do, and then the sort. Okay, perfect. That is directly taken from the ID. Sort key is coming from. So partition key has to be formatted in a certain in a way, right? So it's chat ID followed by the ID. So oops, I'm just doing a. It's going all over the place with fat fingers. Okay, then you have. How it chats as the primary key, and then the chat ID as this key. But I guess it doesn't really solve another. Okay, So I remember why I ended up commenting this out previously. The reason is that this approach may work if it's just the simple core actions, but we are trying to do a little bit more, like we're trying to provide a little more flexibility so that a user who creates a chat can create this record, and at the same time, this other chat record can be created. So it's really, we're trying to make it transaction friendly. So, well, this would probably work. It's not good enough for us. So, let's take a second to step back and see what would need to happen, right? Message. Could do another thing. And that is, let's just go ahead and remove this. Let's assume that doesn't exist. Let's get rid of this as well. So I hope, yeah, it doesn't. Okay, whatever. Let's get rid of that. We don't really need that. Just for now. And I don't think this is appropriate place for the app models to host the record, so I'm just going to call it database models.ts. Sure, why not? Okay, so export interface DB record. So what's this going to do? It's going to have a few methods to. Let me see if I can remember how I did this in the past. Sorry, folks, it's taking a little while. I'm just looking up some of my notes here. Yeah, so I'm going to call it like a DB record, and what that's going to contain is the partition key, sort key, and okay, yeah, let's copy over the created at. So yes, we do want all of this. The only difference here is that it has to be an abstract class so that we can implement certain features. But maybe not, because this is just a record, and let's just say yeah, so I'll call this a DB record just to be a little bit descriptive, and it's going to be containing create yeah, okay, I think I remember now. All right, so we actually don't we don't do things this way, so it's just going to be interface and we can remove all of these properties, and that's a DB record. Okay, so then when we're trying to create our chat model, what we're going to do is forget the message, we need chat. Okay, it's not a record, it's actually DB record. Okay, so go ahead and why is it save this, close it. Yeah, it should be. Okay, I'm just gonna import it. Models, database models. Okay, super boring so far, but sometimes things can be a little boring. Okay, implements. We'll make sure this is implementing. Now it's going to ask us to go ahead and put a bunch of stuff here, and each of this is also going to require the API property. Yeah, it's not the best way to do it, but it's going to work because it's the chat model, and we want to make sure that we yeah, I'm gonna go back and forth a few times. Just it's not an abstract class. Let's just do it this way. Actually, yeah, abstract class is fine. It needs to have a method called update, and that's a promise. Just not sure what it's going to resolve, so we'll leave it as unknown and leave it as such. Okay. This is useful to just call the update method and directly talk to the database. But the other actions that are create, retrieve, list will have to be coming from this view, because we got it directly from the record, and let's do that. Okay, so far let's extend it. Let's save this file, let's save this file, let's just restart it. I'm just curious to see if extending is good enough to propagate these particular properties. So I'm going to just do a quick test after this thing starts, hopefully with no errors. Okay, so that's good. Let's go over to the browser and let's reload this. Chat. We have everything. Okay, so that's good. Okay, perfect. This is what I wanted to see. Not quite there yet, but slowly. So we are going to implement for every single object. So let me just, before we do that, it's going to get large. These classes are going to get really large, so I'm just going to go ahead and there we go. So we're going to slowly start to move things over into individual files. Async static create is the method we're looking for. Static async. And this one is going to take a model of the type chat, and it's going to return basically the object after it's been saved. Is equal to, we do need to create a document client, so how about we go ahead and do that. It's going to be in the utils. Let's just create a new file called database client, and yeah, let's just return that. So that is going to be requiring our region. By the way, because we're kind of getting tied too much into the AWS, I want to add a to-do here. We need to allow we would create a generic database interface that's not directly DynamoDB. But in the interest of time, we're just going to go ahead and get this done. We also need the version. It's just a little bit of to-dos for things to work with AWS. So we need that, and then we're going to return client, which is new document client. Okay, for this to work, we do need to import a new. Let's go ahead and install the AWS SDK. And that is going to require API version. Actually, let's just make this easier. Perfect. API version and region. Okay, so can I import this now? It's loading. Hopefully it can. Hopefully it can. No, I guess not. Okay, that's fine. SDK. Okay. Document client. Alright. The second thing is we do want to pass our table name. And we're going to end up getting the table name from that is going to be a table name. I'm going to need to pause my screen so that I can go and modify my environment variables real quick. Sorry. Okay, we're back to VS Code. Yeah, so now we can go ahead and say AWS client. Let's go and get me that. And now we can use the client to pretty much interact with our database. All right. So as long as in the future we create a generic client that knows how to talk to Dynamo, or knows how, and also knows how to talk to SQLite, we should be fine. Let's see. Yeah. So in order to create our chat object, we're going to say so that is going to be um, a transaction. So transact right. What's going to say? Transaction items are an array where you tell that's right. We are putting an object, and we're going to put another object. Okay, and the first one is basically the object is the model that's going to be put. Let's see, quick fix. All right. Oh, that's right, because we have to make sure this is a promise. There's probably better ways to use that, but I prefer to just convert it into a promise so that we have something decent to return. Okay. How do we know that this model is going to be in the format of the DB record? So we can do this. We can say constructor input check, and that is going to make sure equals. Well, we don't need to do that. We can always do super input. That's right. Let's go back here. Let's just create a constructor. DB record. So this dot so we just have to do that for all the properties that exist. Let's do that. Update it at create by. Okay, so we have all of our properties, and then we'll do the same thing for this. This dot items. Okay. At this point, we have our item is here, and then the table name is the table name. There are no conditions, at least, so that's kind of what we have. And okay. But we do want to overwrite this dot version key is equal to chats sort key is equal to chat ID. Pretty much. I'm gonna take a second to think about this. So even though the model is directly tied to these partition key and sort key, we do want to make sure that we create a copy of that model on a different partition key and sort key. So we're just kind of making sure that we are able to store it, a duplicate. And anytime we do an update, it's going to be following the same structure. So let's go ahead and do the update method now. We're going to update the model. That is that. Let's continue to take all of that. It's basically the copy of this method, but instead of using put, we're going to do update instead. And instead of the model passed as an item, we have to do something a little bit different. Let's see. The key. Let's see. I can do this before. Update. Yeah. Partition key is partition key, and then model is the model sort key. We still need the table name. However, we might need the update expression to be I need to give it an update expression, and that is a string. Set generate the update expression from the model, and this is going to be a Dynamo specific thing. That is going to do object right. I also want to import Lodash. It's a pretty handy library to have. It's going to give me access to keys. So what we're trying to do is basically filtering everything in that object into a string that can be used to save the data. However, it's a little catch, and we'll come to know that we do want to exclude certain properties, and those properties are these ones. So I want to filter key so that it doesn't exist. And then we can map it. It's better if it's prod. I don't think it really matters. I do this all the time, just change my variables while I'm doing things. That's fine. So I say that's my property. Make it equal to this one. And I want to join everything as a can I add Is it asking me to create? Yeah, okay. Alright, so that is good. So now that we have the update expression, we can import this. But along with the update expression, we do need a few more properties because we only basically said map the variable name appropriately, but we still need to make sure that we map the values as well. So expression attribute value names. Sorry about the cough. It's not getting any better, so but you know, work goes on. All right. So this one, so it's fast for me because I've actually done this before, so I kind of know. Just looking at the examples. Yeah. Typically, using object and any is not a good practice, but this is such a low-level function that it doesn't really matter for us. For every key, we want to make sure we filter the prop so that it's not one of these two properties, and then we can say map my property just create a small object, and then what we're going to do is just say is associated with the prop, and then return this. And basically we're just creating an object which has this particular format that's associated with the value, with the key, so that it knows to put this 2 and 2 together. So we need one more function. This is the export function generate attribute values for any object. Same thing, the first part is not going to change. It's going to be get the object keys, and then from here we're just going to have a map property similar to this one. We just have to, oops, that's going to be a bug, so it's the same thing as this. However, instead of mapping to the hash portion, we're just going to map to this portion so that it knows what to put in the value. So object, so in this key may be a better name for this thing. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and rename everything to key. Same thing, rename, same thing. Okay. So now that it knows where to pick the values from, it knows where to pick the variable names from. We do still want to reduce this just the same way. Can these be merged? Maybe, but it's not necessary. So we want to get that, and then say expression attribute values, generate expression attribute values, model. Okay, so this is going to be good, and what we have to do is basically the same thing for the other object that needs to be added, which is right here. Nothing else will change because we really want to make sure we don't modify the partition key anywhere in these three methods, so should be fine. So that's for the update method. Do we want to implement a way for it to be deleted? Actually, let's get rid of this. We no longer need that to be abstract, because we're just going to put them directly on the class itself. It's just a lot more efficient. I don't know, efficient is the right word, but it's simpler. So there we go. Right, so we have CR, we ever see R in the CRUD, so let's do that. Just want to return chat ID and a string. So we have two ways to retrieve this. For now, I believe we do want to allow, let's make sure that even though we store the objects in two locations, we just allow users to be able to retrieve it using the partition key and the, oh, sorry, lost my train of thought for a second. Okay. Still need this, and we just need wait client dot get. We are going to get the key, and then what else do we need? We need the table name. Usually, if you really care about performance, you can get these properties and store them. So over a period of time, if your queries are not performing well, you can use those as metrics to try to improve the queries. But we are not going to worry about that. It's I see DynamoDB as like a temporary thing to just kind of glue the hard parts together, and eventually we'll move away from it and have our own peer-to-peer network built into it. So let's not worry about that. We do want the partition key and the model, so we're going to retrieve it the standard way. So that is model. What's this stuff? Yeah, so it's a chat ID, and we are, well, there's no guarantee that this is the object. So what we're going to do is we're going to say return new chat result. We kind of know that it's going to be, well, actually that's not true. We do want to make sure passing in the item. Yeah, there we go. Then it's going to basically drop any other properties that we don't want to expose, and it's just going to go ahead and create that. So I think that should do update. Let's not worry about delete. I'm just going to, yeah, we don't want to worry about delete right now. So we do want to make sure that we're able to create and retrieve our objects. So how about we do that? Just give me a second to get my browser setup. And where is my browser? Oh, there it is. So I'm just waiting for the app to load. I guess there was an error. That's fine. I'm just going to restart it. I fixed that. Well, it was still compiling. Let's let this go through, and once this has gone through, we want to make sure we log in one more time so we have the authorization token. This part takes a while. And it looks like we didn't actually implement the method, but let's just do that now. Chat.create and we can return created object. Okay. But let's not save this right now. I just want to be able to log in with a message. So these messages right now are not time bound. That's why I can just reuse my message, but we really don't want to do this in production because that will open things up for replay attacks. So they should really have a time component in it to avoid. Even if you leak it, it shouldn't really matter because it should have a nonce in there somewhere. What's going on here? Sign in. Weird. It's missing. Where's my sign in method? Oh, okay. We'll just make that a. Yeah, let's just make that a payload. And then, yeah, it's not documented well, but it has to be in a specific format. It's a temporary method. I don't really have plans to keep it in here. I believe I can put. Can I mark it deprecated? Oh yeah. There we go. That's better. Just get it to work. I just need a text box. That's why I put a string in here, so that the Swagger API just kind of knows that to put a text box in there, and then once the text box is available, I'll put the contents. What's going on? Okay. Some token. Can I try it out? Oh, fantastic. Okay. Just get me credentials, please. Perfect. Save it. And jump over here. And then we want to make sure we have our ID token. Let's add that back in here as the authorization token. Alright, so let's just hope for the best here. So try it out. We don't want any of these things. Interesting. We do want to make sure that we have the updated by and the created by. Whatever. For now, let's just ignore it. Self is what we want. We don't need an ID, but this is not what we want. We don't not from plant. But that's okay. Put the admin in there, participants, and then this. Okay. Just want to make sure that it's actually creating a record in the database. So I implement it. That is fine. That's because I didn't save this. Let's go back and then just save it. Restart it. Hopefully that'll create a record and we can try to verify what's going on. Okay, now that it's running, let's give it a shot one more time. $500 error. Okay, we do have a different error message. That is, we're missing the required key table name. I wonder why. It's coming from here, right? Okay, I'm gonna try to debug this. Okay, it turns out I forgot to add my environment variable in the right spot. So back to doing stuff. Do want to make sure I remove my console log. Okay. So if we're able to create a chat, we should be able to retrieve it. So let's just add that while things are building. So just we can save a little bit of time. So I think that's the way it is. Is it param? I think it's param. Yeah, it is. Okay. Maybe string. That is. Yeah, that should hopefully work. Alright, let's give it a shot one more time. I have a feeling this is going to fail again. And most likely because we forgot the region. Yeah, okay. So, give me a second. Put the region in there as well. Alright. So that's good. Save it. Call it a day. And then restart it. Ah, yes. All caps. That's not all caps, is it? It's all caps. Alright, so one more time. Request your resource now. Okay, dokes. What does this mean? Table name is not found in that region. Okay. I'm just going to try it one more time. That's ready. Okay, it seems to be ready. Execute. Did I click it? Yeah, resource not found. And most likely because it thinks I'm in the wrong region. Okay, let's probably a point. It's probably a good spot to stop. I'm just getting bogged down on some minor bug.